Hey, what's going on, people? It's Boxing Genius TV back again for another podcast. Now you might be asking, why the fuck are you doing podcasts instead of film studies? Well, it's really simple. I like the diversity of this channel. I like to switch up my content every once in a while, from boxing lessons to film studies to podcasts. It's really a way for me to separate or to give you guys different ways of teaching boxing in a way that is very suitable for every type of learner. Okay, so we have visual learners, we have auditory learners, and then obviously we have learners who learn by applying all the things that are being demonstrated by an external mentor or another coach. So the topic for today will be beginner mistakes when it comes to training. So not much technique today. We're not going to talk about punching or defense or footwork. We're going to talk mainly about training. So I'm going to enumerate 5 things that most beginners make, or 5 mistakes that most beginners make. What the fuck am I talking about? And this will be mainly based on my experience, but also based on my observations from switching from gyms to gyms, seeing different beginners, meeting different beginners in the past, and sparring beginners as an intermediate boxer. So let's get right into it. The first one, which I think a lot of beginners do, is switching trainers or gyms. Now, of course, you have those boxers who have the loyalty award, and they'll stay with their coach until the end of their life, until they die, until the day they die. They are going to stick with their coach no matter what. And particularly, I have nothing against that. It's a very good approach. But there are also those people who switch from gyms to gyms or trainers to trainers. And here's why. I found that a lot of beginners are applying for mentorship not necessarily to learn, but to get opportunity to fight in the amateur. Okay, so they want a coach because they want someone who can bring them right to that level where they want it. They want a coach who can bring them to the fight game, and they want a coach who can give them opportunities to fight, right? Because the coach apparently has different connections, and the more connections they have, obviously, the more opportunities they can give to their fighters. So if you have a high-level coach, it is very likely for you to be in big fights, because the coach can set you up, and they can have multiple connections. They can make different deals, and in the end, they can bring you to that level, and they can give you big fights. Okay, even if you're not that good of a boxer to begin with. So it's mainly a sense of urgency on the part of beginners where they want to fight instantly. And so that's why if they don't get to fight with their coach, or if they don't get to fight with their current coach, if they don't get a fight, they are going to switch into a different gym or to a different coach. Okay, it's not that the coach is teaching something bad, but it's just the fact that, they don't get to have that opportunity to fight. Now, I'll tell you guys a story. So, I was training in this gym for 2 months, around 2 months. And throughout that 2 months, I was very tempted to tell the coach, or ask my coach, when am I going to fight? When are you going to give me the amateur fight, coach? Come on. What the fuck? I've been training here 2 months. I've been paying you a lot of money. When am I going to get to fight? You know what I'm saying? What do we plan to do? Are you going to keep taking my money without letting me fight? And then one day, without asking, another coach finally came up to my coach. Okay, so another coach in the gym finally came up to my coach and said, "Hey man, the kid's looking good. Why not bring him to the amateurs?" And this was at the time when I had no amateur fights at all, zero. This was my first coach, and the coach said he's not ready. All right, and so days went by, weeks went by. And I was waiting for that another coach to ask him again, because I really wanted to have that cleared in my head. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, why doesn't he talk about me fighting? Does he not trust me enough? Does he not believe in me? The fuck is going on? Why is he not talking about me fighting in the amateurs? What's going on? What do we plan on doing? And so what ended up happening was I had my last day at the gym. I was like, fuck it. If it's not going to let me fight in the amateurs, I'm going to switch gyms and I'm going to go to a different gym. Maybe he doesn't appreciate my potential. Maybe he doesn't see the potential in me. Maybe he doesn't trust me enough. He doesn't believe in me enough. So fuck it. I'm going to go to a different gym. So I had my last session there. Never saw the guy again. Up to this fucking day, I feel guilty, man. I feel a little bit ashamed that I haven't talked to him for a long time. He was my first coach, and I haven't talked to him since out there because he simply was... He made me wait too long in order to fight in the amateurs. And looking back, I'm like, God damn, I actually wasn't prepared to be in the amateurs. Now I look back at that day and I'm like, I wasn't actually prepared to be in the amateurs. So if I had that same mentality back then, I probably wouldn't leave that coach. He probably brought me to the amateurs with a lot of preparation and a lot of, and a sense of confidence in a way that he knows I'm prepared. But because I was so impatient, I decided to leave the coach, and I decided to switch from gyms to gyms to gyms, looking for the coach that can give me the fight right away, which is very wrong. Like, dude, you gotta wait. You gotta wait for your coach to be confident enough to put you in the amateurs or to give you a fight, to set you up for a fight. Because for the most part, they know better than you. So don't try to switch to different gyms. Your coach knows two things. Your coach knows two things before putting in the amateurs. Number one, they want to know if you're loyal to them, if you're not going to leave them anytime soon. And number two, they want to know if you're prepared enough. Okay? So if you are known as someone who switched from gyms to gyms to gyms, if they ask you a question, how many gyms have you been in? And you're like, I've been in 12 gyms. What do you think? What do you think is their impression? Or what is their impression going to be in your opinion? It's like, 12 gyms? What the fuck? You switch from gyms to gyms? Are you kidding me? And so the coach will be like, man, this dude will probably leave me anytime soon. I should not commit to him. I should not take him seriously. Your coach is not stupid, people. Coaches are not stupid. If they see that you're not committed enough to stick with them and to stay with them for a long time, they're not going to set you up for a fucking fight. So don't be impatient. Don't display any sense of urgency in your part to fight in the amateurs or to get your first fight if you're a beginner. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to always ask them, when am I going to fight? When am I going to fight? Come on, coach, I've been training here for a couple of weeks. What are we planning to do? It just shows urgency on your part. Like, your coach knows better. Shut the fuck up. Keep training. One day they are going to set you up for that big fight, and you're not going to regret it, because when that day comes, the coach is actually confident enough that you are prepared to be in the best shape of your life, and you can fight. You can be very prepared when that day comes. Number two, teaching yourself for too long. Teaching yourself for too long. This is another problem that a lot of beginners have. Now, here's my experience. I started training at 12. I trained by myself until I was 15. By the time I got to 15 years old, I went to a gym, I met my first coach, and I realized how much of a piece of shit I am and how little I knew about boxing. Here's the thing, folks. YouTube and all this shit, all that shit aside, all the boxing courses aside, you can only learn so much with self-instruction, and I'll tell you guys why. Okay, here's the difference between someone who has a coach and someone who's just teaching himself. There's only one difference, honestly. Accountability. Accountability. And that accountability comes from this thing called feedback. When you are teaching yourself, you are not getting any feedback. You are not getting any criticism. You are not getting any form of personalized opinion about what you need to improve and what you need to work on. When you have a coach, you have that pressure on you to go to the gym every other day. I wouldn't say every day. Every other day, you have that pressure to go to the gym and tell your coach and let your coach know that something is improving. Because if it's not improving, it means that you're not doing enough. And if you're not doing enough, your coach will let you know that right away. And so they'll try to make it more difficult for you. Okay, so there's that pressure on your part to perform every day when you have a coach. When you don't have a coach, there's no accountability on your part. Now, are there people who succeed with being self-taught? Absolutely. But there will be a point where you'll need to go to a coach so that you can have that sense of accountability in yourself and you can have that sense of urgency. It's like, oh shit, it's 2 months in camp, or we've been training for 2 months. I need to accomplish this. I need to do this. And they're going to be there when that day comes. You know, in 2 months, I want to be able to spar for 6 rounds without getting tired. And my coach is going to watch me. That's what you need. Someone who will watch you. Someone who has their eyes locked on you. When that person comes in your life, or when that person comes in your boxing journey, you'll truly be focused and you'll have a sense of urgency to get things done. Okay. So, again, training yourself for too long is a mistake. I'm not saying don't train yourself. If you ain't got money, if you're at a place where there's no gym, really, that's considerable, but try to get out of that situation. Do your best, earn some money, save some fucking money so that you can go to a gym and buy your membership. And then train with a coach. That's truly helpful. I cannot stress this enough. I wish I saved up some money and then I just went to a coach right away. I wish I didn't waste 3 years of my fucking life trying to teach myself through YouTube and boxing courses and instructionals and DVDs and books. There's too many fucking resources out there. I haven't learned a single thing from most of them. Like, fuck. I wish I just went to a fucking gym. And it's not even a matter of learning a lot of things. You're not going to learn fucking diamonds from a coach. It's just the fact that you have a sense of accountability now, in the sense that someone's actually watching you closely. And not just that, someone's actually watching you closely who's an expert in that fucking field. You know how much of a pressure that is? To have a boxing expert look at you and criticize you for every move that you make. It's like, god damn, how much of a pressure is that? When you're at home and you're teaching yourself, it's different. It's very different. You don't get that criticism from your coach. So you always need to stay sharp. And that's one of the advantages of mentorship. It's not even a matter of learning more versus learning less. I mean, you can learn more by being self-taught than being with a coach, but the accountability is missing. And that's what you truly need. And this is what pisses me off about a lot of YouTube coaches, because because they can tell you a whole bunch of shit about, oh my god, this is what you do with your foot. This is how you do the punch, how you throw the jab, how you throw the hook. They can tell you a whole bunch of this shit, but they can never like actually give you an incentive to go to a gym and then train. They'll never tell you that. Why? Because they're making money off of you, bitch. Like, if I can tell you, work out at home with me, I will teach you everything. You don't need to go to a gym in order to fucking learn boxing. If I tell you that, you're gonna keep on watching my shit and I'm gonna make a lot of money out of it. But that's not me. I'm here to tell you, go to a fucking gym, bitch. My channel is great. The Boxing Genius, you can learn a lot from this channel. But going to a gym, that's what's gonna take you to the next level. That's the most important thing. So go ahead and try these tips out. Number 3, avoiding sparring. This is actually a funny thing, because 90% of the beginners that I meet, and by beginners I mean 3 to 6 months into training, okay? That's my that's my standard for beginners. Most people will say a year. If you've been training for less than a year, you're a beginner. I would say 3 to 6 months, okay? That's a little bit more generous. I've seen people who've been training for 3 to 6 months and they are afraid to spar. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Don't be scared, bro. No one's gonna hurt you here. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I think that comes from the misconception that boxers are there to hurt you, when in fact it's actually the opposite. It's actually the opposite. Boxers have more control with their punches, okay? So if you see a lot of boxers who are about to knock their opponent out, most of the time you'll see them pulling the punch. You'll see them stopping halfway. And why is that? Because they have more control over their power and they have more control over the amount of violence that they inflict on their opponent. So if they see that their opponent is already down, they're not gonna like keep on punching them unless they're a fucking psychopath and they don't really care. But when you go to a gym, you have to realize these are professionals. Like most of the people that you'll meet there are professionals, or some of them will be amateurs, but either way, they'll have more control over their punches, so you don't really need to worry about being hit or being beat up, because that's not what boxers do. We don't beat beginners up. We beat people who are at our level or higher, okay? Boxers, we do not beat up beginners who are beneath us, especially intermediate into advanced. You know, we don't beat up beginners like that. So don't be afraid to spar. Just go in there and try to find an opportunity to spar and get to know some of the people in there. Get to know some of the people in the gym so that you can have a sense of security whenever you actually step in the ring with them. Go ahead and watch them spar first. Okay, see the atmosphere, see how they do things. And if you see that they are sparring hard all the time, then maybe that's not the guy for you, because if you spar hard all the time, you tend to like lose that control. If you do light sparring, you get to practice your pillow shots and practice your light shots, and those guys who are used to light sparring are more likely to take care of you rather than those guys who spar hard all the time. So don't try to avoid sparring. It's one of the best things in the world, and once you get used to it, it's addictive. Sparring is addictive if it's not hard all the time. Like, don't get me wrong, I love hard sparring, bro. I love fighting. I love punching hard. I love fucking testing my power against another man. But there's a time and place for everything, you know? Don't try to do it all the time, because in the long run, it's going to hurt, or in the long run, it's going to do more harm than good. Especially if you're a beginner. Like, god damn, bro, limit the hard sparring. Number 4, not prioritizing recovery. Not prioritizing recovery. This is the thing that pisses me, or this is the thing that I also see with a lot of beginners, It's the fact that they are trying to train hard all the time, and they are trying to train harder than the next man. Here's the thing, folks. Right now, you're strong. Right now, you're powerful. But nobody can really see the future. Nobody can really envision what's going to happen in the future. Just look at Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., for example. He was training very hard for the early years of his career. Then what happened next? He was worn out, had many, I'm not sure if he had many injuries, but he certainly wasn't the same in his 30s. You know, in his early 30s, it wasn't the same because he spent all those younger years trying to perfect his craft and trying to overtrain himself, trying to train harder than everybody else, and then in the long run, it harmed him. Look, if you plan on retiring at 30 years old, if you plan on retiring at 31, 32 years old, go ahead, do that shit. But if you are trying to stay in the sport for a long time, okay, let's say 38 years old, 40 years old, if you're trying to stay in the sport for a long time and make a living out of it, just keep it regulated, okay? I'm not saying train light. Training light won't do you good either, okay? Training light won't do any good either. I'm just saying try to find a balance, okay? So in season, off season, just like in the NBA, there's an on season and there's an off season. Try to prioritize different things and different elements of your training in between those fights, in between your fights. Personally, I haven't fought in 2 years. 2 motherfucking years, man. And I still find myself like balancing those two things. But what I would recommend is try to periodize your training. So look up periodization. There's a lot of resources on it. There's linear periodization, for example, where for a couple of weeks you lighten up the load and then you gradually build it up. Okay, so go ahead and look that shit up. It's called linear periodization. There's also a non-linear periodization where you try to work on everything throughout the entire meso or throughout the entire cycle. But yeah, you can just look it up. Periodization, that's what I use. 3 weeks you can work on like general conditioning, and then the next 3 weeks you can work on strength and power. The next 3 weeks is going to be speed, and then the next 3 weeks is going to be a gradual decline in the intensity of everything that you do. Okay, so go ahead and look up periodization. It's a very good resource, or it's a very good training method for prioritizing recovery. You can do the linear, you can do the non-linear, depends on you. You can have multiple variables in your training, or you can have multiple components of your boxing compressed in each block or in each week. So it can be as short as 2 weeks, it can be as long as 4 weeks, 4-week cycles, and you can work on that. So definitely look up periodization. It's a great fucking training method if you want to stay in this sport for a long time. Like, I don't want to see you doing rocky exercises all the time. It's not optimal, and it's not going to be sustainable for too long. Right now we're young, right now we're strong, but what are we going to look like when we get into our 30s, when we get to our late 30s? It's not going to be the same. So look that up. Even Pacquiao had to lower the intensity of his training when he got older. So no one is an exception to this rule. And then finally, the most common mistake that I see beginners make is wanting to fight right away. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you trying to get to? Like, you're 16, sit down, bitch. Or a lot of amateurs are even as young as 11 or 12. What are you trying to chase? God damn it. You're not ready. Don't you understand that shit? Don't you understand that you're not ready? Most people don't. They try to fight right away. And then what ends up happening, they get hurt. Oh, it's a learning experience, bitch. You're setting yourself up for brain damage, and then you're going to do it again, you're going to do it again. Just be patient. Stay with a coach that's intelligent enough to find the boundary between prepared and challenge. Prepared and challenge. Okay, so if they see a challenge, if they see the part of you that is a little bit insecure and a little bit uncertain, and then that side of you which is prepared and confident, that's where you meet in the middle. And then when you meet that middle point or that midpoint, you can finally risk fighting and you can step in the ring. But don't try to get into a fight like 3 months in, 6 months in. Guys, boxing is not as, the progress is not as fucking quickly as you think of it. Most of the shit is in our head. We think we're making a lot of progress when in fact we're not. And then we'll look back 1 year from now and then we'll say, oh shit, that actually was very little progress. I feel like I'm only ready now. I thought I was ready when I was training 3 months in, but now 1 year in and looking back at that point, I think I'm only ready now. I think I'm only in fight shape now. And I think a lot of those coaches who bring amateurs too early in the fight game, when they're only been training for 2 months or 3 months, are really putting their clients at risk. They're putting their students at risk because you don't know what's going to happen there. You know, they might spar, they might... Of course, there are exceptions. So who the fuck... What the fuck is this? There are exceptions. 2 months in, 3 months in, they're gonna fight, okay, they're gonna knock the guy out. But for the most part, these guys ain't ready. 2 months, 3 months, these guys aren't ready. So sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up. I'm not gonna give you no fight. You can go to another coach if you want and get your ass kicked, okay? Risk your fucking life. Set yourself up for fucking CTEs before you even step up in the pros. Go ahead, do that shit. And then come back to me. I'm not gonna accept you in this gym no more, bitch. You've already ruined everything. So, that's another common mistake. Wanting to fight right away. Now, is there such a case where you are where you are waiting too long? Absolutely. If you've been training for a year and you still haven't got a fight, like, what are you waiting for? But I think this is more evident in beginners. I think it's more evident that a lot of beginners want to fight right away rather than waiting for too long. Of course, some beginners also wait for too long to fight, but we have these big ego guys. We have these guys who are simply too cocky, too arrogant, too excited, overexcited, and they want to fight right away. And it's not the healthiest way to go. Be patient and let your coach do the judgment for you. When they think you're ready, you're going to get the fight that you fucking want. Just wait for it. Your coach can see it. Your coach has all the fucking instincts needed in the world in order to feel that you are ready to step in there and fight for the amateurs. So that was it for this podcast, folks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Those are training mistakes that I see in beginners. Hey, y'all know I don't like fucking over promoting the Patreon, but come on, guys. You can support me there if you want to. It'll be truly an amazing thing. I'll absolutely love it. And hey, you're gonna... That's how I know you're a fucking fan, bro. That's how I know you're a fucking fan. If you can go there and spend some money on this shit, that's how I know you're a fan. But anyway, subscribe to the channel if you're new. And that was it for this podcast, you know? Take notes. I'll see you guys in the next one. We are going to talk about a lot of other shit in the future. If you're looking for the film study, go fuck yourself. There's a time and place for that shit. I'm not gonna do film studies all the time, motherfucker. I'm gonna do podcasts, tutorials, lessons, mini lessons. I'm going to do everything because I can do it. I'm a fucking boxer, and I'm not like any of these coaches who are just sitting behind a computer or fucking doing film breakdowns, film studies, and then they are acting like they're fucking genius at this shit. I'm not like any of these coaches, folks. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Hopefully I can get a fight soon. I'm fucking pumped up to get another fight. Hopefully I can get that in the fall or in the winter time, and I'll upload that if it's possible. I'll get that fight soon, bro. I'm telling y'all. Go ahead and stay tuned, man. You're about to see the Boxing Genius fight again. I haven't fought in 2 years, but I've always been sharp, so. See you guys in the future. Subscribe if you're new. Peace.